untold. Hello, everyone. Today, we will practice listening and speaking skills with the new and old topic. The story tells about how the charm of tradition blends with the energy of innovation, creating a narrative that inspires both reflection and progress. Now, let's begin our listening and speaking practice. Chapter 1: Abernathy's Books. Maple Street was a special street in the small town of Willow Creek. It had old trees, friendly faces, and a little bookstore named Abernathy's Books. The store was as old as the trees, maybe even older. Inside, it smelled like old paper and warm dust. Light came in through the windows, making the dust in the air sparkle like gold. Mr. Abernathy was the owner. He was a kind, old man with a big smile and glasses that sat low on his nose. He loved books more than anything. He loved the way they felt in his hands, the way they smelled, and the stories they told. His bookstore was full of them. Tall books, short books, big books, and small books. They were all waiting to be read. Red books, blue books, green books, they lined every corner. Every morning, Mr. Abernathy opened his shop at 9 o'clock. The old-fashioned bell above the door would ring with a tingling sound. He would dust the shelves, arrange the books, and smile at the new day. He knew every book in the store. He could tell you the author, the story, and even when he bought it. Some of them he has had since he was a young boy. It made him happy to see a little boy or girl find a great new book. A young boy named Ben was a regular visitor. He loved coming to Abernathy's Books. He liked the quiet of the place and the smell of the old books. He would sit in a corner with a book and read for hours. Mr. Abernathy was always happy to see him and would recommend new books for him to enjoy. His favorites were the adventure books with knights and dragons. "Hello, Mr. Abernathy," Ben said one afternoon, his eyes shining. "I finished the book about the brave knight. Do you have any more like that?" "Of course I do, Ben." Mr. Abernathy chuckled, his eyes twinkling. He walked to a shelf and pulled out a book with a picture of a dragon. "Try this one. It's about a prince and a very clever dragon." Ben smiled wide. "Thank you, Mr. Abernathy," he said as he ran to his favorite corner in the store. Abernathy's Books was the heart of the town. It was a place to find adventure and friendship, all between the pages of a good book. Chapter 2: The Buzzing Bean Arrives. The next morning, a new sound filled the street, different from the gentle ting-a-ling of the bookstore bell. It was the sound of hammers and drills. A new shop was being built next to Abernathy's Books. It was called the Buzzing Bean, and it was a modern coffee shop. Mia, a young woman with bright eyes and a big smile, was the owner. She loved technology, fast service, and the smell of fresh coffee. The Buzzing Bean was very different from Abernathy's Books. It had bright lights, sleek furniture, and loud music. It also had free Wi-Fi, which was new to Maple Street. Many colors and modern furniture lit the place up. Mia had a tablet to take orders and a fancy coffee machine that made all sorts of coffees. She loved making coffee and always had a smile for her customers. She believed in making everyone feel happy and full of energy. Sarah, a young girl who loved her tablet, was the first customer of the new cafe. She loved the colorful lights and the loud music. She loved ordering her drinks on the tablet. The cafe made her feel excited and happy. She told all her friends about the cafe. Mia and Mr. Abernathy were neighbors now. Their shops were side by side, but they were like two different worlds. Chapter 3: Worlds Apart. Mia brought a plate of muffins from her cafe over to Mr. Abernathy at Abernathy's Bookstore. She smiled brightly. "Good morning, Mr. Abernathy. I wanted to introduce myself and share my muffins." Mr. Abernathy looked up from his book and smiled kindly. "Good morning, my dear," he said. "Your muffins smell wonderful." He selected one of the blueberry muffins and tried biting it. This is delicious. Thank you." Mia sat down in the chair in front of him and started to chat. "So, how was your day?" Mia asked. "The shop looks very interesting and has a lot of history." "It is a fine day, thank you," Abernathy said. "I enjoy reading my books and greeting my regular customers. I am very proud of my shop and all of the books." "That is great," Mia answered. "I also love my shop. I love the modern look and all the technological aspects. I love making new drinks and meeting new people. I think our shop is very popular." They talked a little more. Mr. Abernathy saw that Mia loved her cafe just as much as he loved his bookstore, but they were very different people. Mia was energetic and fast, while Mr. Abernathy was calm and slow. One loved the old and one loved the new, but they were neighbors and respected one another. Chapter 4. The Empty Bookstore. Days turned into weeks, and something started to change on Maple Street. Many people visited the Buzzing Bean. The cafe was always full of people talking, laughing, and drinking coffee. But the bookstore started to feel quiet and empty. Fewer people were coming to Abernathy's books. Mr. Abernathy sat by his window, looking at his empty store. He saw more and more people going to the cafe, looking at their phones, chatting loudly, and drinking lattes. He felt a little sad. He loved his books very much. He did not understand why people didn't want to visit his shop anymore. Ben still came, but he was often the only customer. The bell above the door rang very quietly compared to the sounds of the cafe next door. Mr. Abernathy was starting to worry. He loved his bookstore, and he did not want to see it die. Maybe his time was over, and no one wanted to read old books anymore. Chapter 5. Ben's Idea. One afternoon, Ben was at the bookstore, and Mr. Abernathy looked very sad. "What's wrong, Mr. Abernathy?" Ben asked. Mr. Abernathy sighed. "People do not come here anymore, Ben. The bookstore is too old, I guess. The buzz of the new cafe is too much." "That's not true," Ben said. "Your bookstore is the best. Everyone loves it here. It's so cozy. It's the perfect place to read a book." Then an idea popped into his head. "I know. We need to do something new to make people want to come here." "What can we do?" asked Mr. Abernathy. He was not sure, but he was willing to listen. "We can make a kids' corner with colorful books and a soft rug where kids can sit and read. Kids love to come read books here." Mr. Abernathy thought it was a great idea. "That could be interesting, Ben. Do you think it will encourage people to come?" "Yes," Ben said excitedly. "I know it will. Especially parents wanting to support reading for their children." Ben loved the idea of having a small area that was kids-oriented, and he was ready to help. Chapter 6. A Little Help from a Friend. The next morning, Mia saw Mr. Abernathy looking sad through his window. She saw Ben help him take out books with lots of colors, and she saw him look at a rug that was hidden in the back of the store. She thought that Mr. Abernathy looked defeated, and it made her sad. She realized maybe her cafe is stopping people from coming to the bookstore. She decided to do something. She walked into Abernathy's books. "Good morning, Mr. Abernathy," Mia said. Mr. Abernathy was surprised to see Mia. "Good morning, Mia. What brings you here? I have seen that the bookstore is not as busy lately. I've been thinking of how we can help each other," Mia said, smiling. "Do you think we can collaborate with some sort of event?" Mr. Abernathy looked surprised. "An event? What kind of event?" "Maybe a book and coffee event. People can come to your shop to see some new books, then they can come to my shop for coffee," Mia said excitedly. I think this is a great idea to help both stores. Mr. Abernathy liked the idea. He was surprised that Mia would help him. That's a great idea, Mia. Let's do it, he said. A small smile appeared on his face. Chapter 7. An event. They worked together to plan the event. Mia created colorful posters and posted them all over Maple Street. They created ads on social media, and they spoke to all the regulars. The day of the event was very exciting. People came to Abernathy's Books to see the new Kids Corner. Kids sat on the soft rug and read books, and their parents looked at the books on the shelves. It was lively, everyone was talking and having a great time. After that, everyone went next door to the Buzzing Bean for a coffee or tea to celebrate the event. They enjoyed the music and atmosphere of the cafe. They talked about their favorite stories and suggested new ones to other neighbors. Mr. Abernathy and Mia were happy to see everyone having a good time, and it made them very happy to see different people visit each of their stores. Chapter 8. Finding Balance. After the event, things started to change. People realized that both the bookstore and the cafe were great. They can go to the Buzzing Bean for a quick coffee, a place to socialize, and the free Wi-Fi. They can go to Abernathy's Books for a quiet space and good stories. People started to visit both places on Maple Street. Mia and Mr. Abernathy started talking more. They learned from each other. Mia started to love the quiet of the bookstore, and Mr. Abernathy started to enjoy a good cup of coffee from the Buzzing Bean. They realized that the old and the new can live together and make the town better. They saw that having the two shops next to one another is a great opportunity for them to work together. Mr. Abernathy started to sell coffee and tea at the bookstore for the people who liked his quiet atmosphere, and Mia created a seating area near the bookstore where she put some books for people to enjoy while they sipped their coffee. Chapter 9. The Mayor's Visit. One sunny afternoon, the mayor of Willow Creek, Mrs. Thompson, came to visit Maple Street. She had heard about the event and how well it went. She went into the bookstore and spoke to Mr. Abernathy, congratulating him on creating the Kids Corner. She then went into the cafe and spoke to Mia about how well she is doing with her cafe and the changes she had implemented. I am so happy to see that old and new can live together in our town, said the mayor. I think the relationship that you have built is fantastic. You have helped to create something special in our community. I want to thank you both for your community involvement. Mr. Abernathy and Mia smiled. They knew that their shops had made Maple Street even more special. Chapter 10. A Shared Future. The bookstore and the cafe continued to thrive. They started collaborating on different events throughout the year. Abernathy's Books was filled with the smell of old paper and the sound of quiet reading. The Buzzing Bean was filled with the smell of coffee and the sound of happy conversations and laughter. Maple Street was a place where everyone could find something they loved. The old and the new learned to dance together. Mr. Abernathy and Mia were friends now. They showed everyone that different things are good together. They showed that we can respect the past and look forward to the future. Their story became a story of friendship and change for the entire town. And so, the little bookstore and the busy cafe on Maple Street lived happily ever after, side by side. They taught everyone that the old and the new can make a wonderful team. They showed that change can bring new opportunities for everyone in the community.